Come subscribe to my channel for more gripping stories like this one. Hit that button and turn on notifications so you never miss the drama. The rain fell in heavy sheets over Prague that October evening, turning the cobblestones of Mala Strana into slick black mirrors. Street lamps glowed amber through the downpour, and the Vltava River churned below Charles Bridge like it was angry at the world. Inside the small wine bar on Uzhezd, the air smelled of oak barrels and roasted chestnuts. Candle flames danced on the walls, and soft Czech jazz drifted from hidden speakers. I sat across from her, Elena, 32, dark hair pulled into a loose knot, green eyes that seemed to hold entire forests. She wore a simple black dress that caught the light every time she moved. We had met 3 weeks earlier at a gallery opening in Vinohrady. She was there researching a book on Bohemian painters from the early 20th century. I told her I was a translator working on Czech poetry. Half true. The other half was that I was married. To Katerina. Elena laughed at something I said, something about how Prague always felt like it was watching you, and reached for her glass of Modri Portugal. Her fingers brushed mine. The contact was deliberate. I didn't pull away. That was when the door slammed open. Cold wind rushed in, carrying the scent of wet asphalt. Everyone in the bar turned. Katerina stood in the doorway, soaked, her blonde hair plastered to her face, mascara streaking down her cheeks like black rivers. She wore the red coat I had bought her for our 10th anniversary. The coat I had thought she'd burned after our last fight. She locked eyes on me, then on Elena. "Who is she?" Her voice cracked the room like glass. "How dare you?" The bar went silent. Even the jazz seemed to pause. I stood slowly. "Katerina, don't." She stepped forward, heels clicking on the stone floor. "Don't you dare say my name like it still means something." Elena looked between us, confusion hardening into something colder. She set her glass down with deliberate care. "I think I should go." "No," Katerina said. "Stay, I want you to hear this." She turned to me again. 10 years, Jan. 10 years I waited for you to come home from your translations. 10 years I listened to your excuses while you disappeared for days. I thought it was work. I thought it was the pressure of deadlines. I thought it was me. Her voice broke. It was never me. The room felt smaller. People pretended not to listen, but their eyes were fixed. Katerina reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a thick envelope. She dropped it on the table between us. Photographs spilled out. Me and Elena at the gallery. Me and Elena walking along the river. Me and Elena in a cafe on Narodny Trida. Someone had been following us. Someone had been watching. "I hired a private investigator," she said quietly, "because I finally stopped trusting you." Elena stood. I didn't know he was married. Katerina laughed, a short, bitter sound. "Of course you didn't. He never tells them." I tried to speak. "Katerina, please." She looked at me then, really looked, and I saw something die behind her eyes. "I'm done, Jan. I'm taking the children. I'm taking everything, and you're going to watch me do it." She turned and walked out into the rain. I stood there, numb, while Elena gathered her things. She didn't say goodbye. She just left. That night I drove back to our house in the hills above Prague, the one we had bought when Sophie was born. The house where my father had once lived, where he had died alone after my mother left him for another man. The house full of ghosts. Katerina had already packed 2 suitcases. The children, Sophie, 11, and Matej, 7, were asleep in the back seat of her car. She was loading the last of her things when I walked in. "You can't just take them," I said. She didn't look at me. "The court will decide that. But tonight, they're coming with me." "Where?" "To my mother's, in Bareno." I reached for her arm. She jerked away so violently I stumbled. "Don't touch me," she whispered. "You lost that right years ago." I watched her drive away, taillights disappearing into the fog. Then I went inside. The house was silent, except for the rain drumming. I walked into the bedroom. Her side of the closet was open. On the dresser was the wedding photo. Us smiling on the Charles Bridge, young, stupid, in love. I picked it up. The glass cracked under my thumb. That was the moment something inside me shifted. Not anger, not yet. Something colder, something patient. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I sat down at the kitchen table, opened my laptop, and began to plan. The revenge didn't start with violence. It started with patience. First, I let her think she had won. I didn't fight the divorce. I signed the papers without contesting custody. I let her have the house, the car, most of the savings. I kept only what was legally mine, the translation contracts, the small apartment in Vinohrady I had bought years ago as an office. She moved back to Brno with her mother. The children came to Prague every other weekend. I was polite, calm, the perfect ex-husband. I sent flowers on her birthday. I asked about her new job teaching literature at the university. I never mentioned Elena again. But behind the scenes, I worked. I knew her family's secrets better than she did. Her father, Pavel, had died when she was 20. Officially, a heart attack. Unofficially, he had been drinking heavily for years, and there were rumors of debts. Debts he never repaid. Debts that had passed to his widow, Katerina's mother, Milada. Milada had paid off most of them over the years, but one loan remained. A substantial amount owed to a private lender in Ostrava. The kind of lender who didn't go to court. The kind who collected interest in other ways. I found the lender. His name was Viktor Kolar. I met him in a smoky bar in Ostrava. I offered to buy the debt outright, for a fraction of what was owed. He laughed until I showed him the cashier's check. He sold it to me that night. I never told Katerina. I simply waited. 2 years passed. Sophie turned 13. Matej started secondary school. Katerina remarried. A quiet history professor named Tomas. They bought a house on the outskirts of Brno. Life looked good for her. Stable, safe. Then the letters started. First to Milada, anonymous, reminding her of the old debt, stating that the new owner of the note had decided to call it in, full amount, immediately. Milada panicked. She told Katerina. Katerina called the lender's old number. It was disconnected. She hired a lawyer. The lawyer discovered the debt had been legally transferred. The new creditor was a company registered in Liechtenstein. Untraceable. Katerina began to unravel. She couldn't sleep. She stopped eating. She fought with Tomas. The children noticed. Sophie started cutting school. Matej wet the bed again. I watched from a distance. I never contacted her directly. But every few months, another letter arrived. Interest compounded. Penalties added. The amount grew. Milada sold her apartment in Prague to pay part of it. She moved into a small flat in Brno. Katerina took a second job. Still, it wasn't enough. One winter evening, 3 years after the divorce, I received a call. It was Katerina. Her voice was thin, brittle. "John, we need to talk." I invited her to my apartment in Vinorati. She arrived alone. No makeup, hair pulled back. She looked older than her 38 years. She sat on the edge of the sofa. "The debt," she said. "It's you, isn't it?" I didn't answer right away. I poured us both a glass of Slivovice. She took it with shaking hands. "I know it's you," she whispered. "You're the only one who would do this." I sipped my drink. "Why would I do that, Katerina?" "Because I hurt you." Her voice cracked. "Because I took the children. Because I humiliated you that night." I looked at her, really looked. "Do you remember the night you walked into that bar?" I asked softly. She nodded. "Do you remember what you said to Elena?" She swallowed. "I told her you never tell them." "Exactly." I leaned forward. "You made sure she knew. You made sure the whole bar knew. You destroyed whatever chance I had at a quiet life after you left. You made me the villain in front of everyone." Her eyes filled with tears. I was angry. I was in pain. "So was I said. Every time I saw the children and couldn't touch them without asking permission. Every time I heard them call another mantata. Every time I looked at the empty side of the bed." She sobbed quietly. I set my glass down. "The debt will be forgiven, completely, the moment you sign this." I slid a document across the table. She read it. Her hands trembled. It was a legal agreement. She would grant me full shared custody of the children. They would spend half the year with me in Prague. She would have the other half. No more restrictions, no more supervised visits. She looked up at me, eyes red. "You're taking them away from me?" "No," I said. "I'm taking back what you stole." She stared at the paper for a long time. Then she signed. I burned the debt note the next day. The children moved between Prague and Brno like migratory birds. They grew up strong, loved by both of us. They never knew the full truth. Katerina remarried again after Tomas left her. She found some peace, I think. She never spoke of that night in the bar again. And me? I never saw Elena again. I never looked for her. I simply lived. In the same city, under the same rain. And sometimes, when the wind comes off the Vltava, I hear the echo of a door slamming shut. But I don't flinch anymore. I just keep walking.